by the bay. My name is Christy, and this is my little place on YouTube where I like to talk about all things knitting, sometimes other crafts like cross stitch, sometimes baking, or some books that I'm reading, anything that I'm into at the moment. So thank you so much for joining me, and Happy New Year. I did not end up posting anything for December. It was just a very busy time. My son was at home on holidays from school, and my husband was home as well on holidays. So I didn't really get a ton of knitting done. So I didn't feel like I had a lot to talk about or share with you. But I do now. I've got a few finished objects, as well as about 3 works in progress. And I'd also like to talk about some of my knitting intentions for 2024 and some of my goals. Some of them are knitting related and some of them are not. So I hope you're interested in that, and I hope you can find some inspiration from some of the projects that I'm going to share with you today. This past weekend I went into Toronto to visit my friend. I used to live there for about 15 years, all through my 20s and in my early 30s until I met my husband. And I actually was roommates with my friend for a few years there as well. So lately I've just been thinking, I've kind of been missing Toronto, missing the city and, you know, all the shops there and the restaurants and everything. We live in a pretty small town. There's not a lot of options when it comes to like restaurants or, you know, even shops and stuff. So I just have been missing it. So I went into the city and met her, and we went out for lunch, and then we went to Kensington Market and did some shopping, went and had a coffee, and I also dragged her to a yarn shop there. We went into Units, and it was my first time ever going there. I mean, I've looked online at their stuff, but I've never been in the store before. So that was awesome. I picked up some yarn while I was there, had a look around, and really enjoyed the shop. And it was funny because yesterday I was watching the podcast Fruity Knitting, and Andrea, one of the hosts on the show, was interviewing Claudia, who is the owner of Unit. So that was kind of a funny coincidence, funny timing for that. And Claudia speaks a lot about how she started her yarn shop, and it's such a nice, lovely story. She came here from El Salvador, and she moved here not really knowing anybody, and was able to make a lot of friends and build a community through this knitting shop that she opened. So it was just such a nice and heartwarming story, and I was really happy that I spent my money there in her shop because she just seemed like such a kind person and very excited. She also designs a lot of knitting patterns. A few of them I have in my queue on Ravelry right now. And she's seemed very passionate about knitting and about pattern design and everything. So I really enjoyed that interview. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, you should check it out on Fruity Knitting. So anyway, I'll show you what I picked up from the shop. I'm not completely sure what I'm going to make with it yet because I had plans to make the silver, I think it's called the silver leaf pullover. I'll put a picture of it up here. And that's sort of what I've had in my queue for a little while. And I thought that this yarn would look perfect in that sweater. It's just looks like kind of a basic stocking stitch sweater with lace arms. Really beautiful. So I picked up some of this. It's Knitting for Olive Merino and the Knitting for Olive mohair in the color Dusty Aqua. And I thought this was such a beautiful color. I looked up a lot of different projects on Ravelry, which were done using this color of yarn, and it just inspired me so much. So yeah, I picked that up. I think that this will suit me. It's sort of the color of my eyes, actually. My eyes are sort of this kind of tealish color. So I think that will suit me. It's just figuring out which pattern that I want to use that for. I do, like I said, there's a few that are designed by Claudia that I wanted to knit as well, and I don't know the names, but I'll put them up on the screen so you can see, and maybe you could give me your opinion on which one I should do with this yarn. So yeah, that was what we did, what I did on the weekend, which was fun. So now I'd like to talk to you about some of my finished objects. The first one is the one that I'm wearing, which is called the Tonight Top, and this one is by Lily Kate France. I'll show you. Stand up. It has a faux seam down here, which is really pretty. I don't know if you can see it very well in this color. But yeah, I really enjoyed this pattern. This is my second pattern that I've knit by Lily Kate France, and I think hers are very well written. She gives you lots of detail, lots of help through it. And yeah, I learned a new technique, which was the double knitting to make the armholes here. And I had decided that I wanted to make this one a little bit looser than normal, not so fitted like I normally like to do. I wanted to do it a little bit baggier. And I do like the way it turned out, but I probably could have gone down a size because I do find the armholes are a little loose on it. But it's okay. Like, I still really like it. And it's nothing to do with the pattern. It was just the size that I decided to knit. And I knit this one in Knitting for Olive Merino in the color Midnight, which is sort of like, it's like a very dark blue. It probably looks black here, but it's a very dark but dusty sort of navy blue. And I love this color a lot. Like, I'd like to knit some other things using this color. So yeah, this was a success. I really enjoyed this pattern and definitely recommend it for you as well. The next one I knit was the Un sweater by Fiskum Sunde. And this one is, I'll put a picture up of the pattern. It was an amazing pattern as well. I loved this one. It was very well written, it knit up very quickly. And I learned some new techniques on that one. It was a double folded collar where you're knitting the collar first and then you turn it over and then you attach it, and then you attach it to the other side and you start knitting down. I'm probably not explaining that very well, but she has lots of instruction, very easy to understand. And I really enjoyed that kind of construction of it. I ended up using Universal Yarns Uptown Worsted in, like, it's a charcoal gray color. And I really liked it while I was knitting it. But when I finished it and blocked it, it ended up so big. And I did do that intentionally. I knit probably 2 sizes bigger than what I normally would knit. I normally knit around a size 3, and I decided to do a size 5 because I wanted a really oversized look for this sweater. But I think because it was already designed to be oversized, I think that was just overkill. And I probably could have done, a size 3 or size 4 and gotten that effect that I wanted from it. But anyway, so I'm thinking, when I blocked it and it was pretty big, it was still wearable though. Like, I still did like it, but I decided I would put it in the washing machine and see what happens. And what happened was I completely felted it. So now it's like a teeny tiny little, it wouldn't even fit a kid. It's like very, very small. And like, when I took it out of the washing machine, it was tiny, and I kind of was like, a moment I was like a little upset by it, but then I just like started laughing because I think it's hilarious. It's really, really tiny. And the thing is, with this yarn, I have a wholesale account with a store, so I'm able to get this one because I have a cross stitch business. I'm able to get this one this yarn at a wholesale price, so it didn't hurt that bad that it didn't work out, and I was able to laugh at it. So I ended up sticking it in the dryer and like just really trying to felt it as much as I could, because I thought I could make some mittens out of it for my son and myself, which I don't know if I'll actually end up doing that because I don't really need another pair of mittens right now, and I don't want to bother with that work. And I just think it's really cute and gives me a good laugh. My son was laughing hysterically about it too. So yeah, that was an experience, and yeah, a good learning experience for me. I think from now on, I won't put anything in the washing machine again. Everything will be washed by hand. But it is a superwash wool, so I don't know if the water was just too hot and that's what happened. I don't know. But yeah, it really felted. So that's my Un sweater. I totally recommend the pattern, but I do not recommend putting it in the washing machine. Now my third finished object is the classic ribbed hat. And this is a free pattern by Purl Soho. So you can get it on their website. And I knit this one in Cascades 220 Superwash in the color 838 Rose Petal. And it's sort of a purpley pink, bluish undertone pink. Very bright, very colorful, and I really wanted that. I just got a new winter coat. It's like a light gray wool coat, and I thought that this would look really pretty with that. So yeah, I'm super happy with how it turned out. Super quick knit, very easy. You're just doing ribbing in the round until you shape you decrease for the crown. They do show pictures of it where, you're knitting like it's a brim. But I didn't want a brim. I just wanted sort of a slouchy hat. So I only knit 7 inches for the body before decreasing for the crown. And it fit perfectly. I really like the shape and size of this one. So I might make another one for my husband, maybe one for my son. I don't know. We'll see. So that one, I definitely recommend that pattern. It's been around since I think 2019. So I'm sure a lot of people have knit that one already. But it's just a great basic free pattern for a hat. And all right, so that is it for my finished items. Now I've got my works in progress. So the first one I'm going to start off with is the Champagne Cardigan by Petite Knit. This is my first ever Petite Knit pattern. I know there are so many people knitting her patterns right now, and this one is quite popular too. So I'm a little late to the Petite Knit game, but yeah, I've enjoyed this pattern so far. I find it extremely well written. There's a lot of information there, a lot of hand holding through all these steps. So I think this one is pretty easy, pretty good for a beginner, I would even say. One of the techniques that I learned was doing this button band and with the button holes, and this is the reason why I chose this pattern, was because I really liked the way that the button band looked. It looked very clean and neat, and I just really liked that. So that's why I chose this one. She suggests that you use Sande's garn double Sunde held together with a mohair, which I did not do. I just used the one, which is, again, Cascades 220 Superwash, and this is the color blue, which I think is 846. I'm not sure, but it's just called blue. And I didn't hold it together with a mohair because I didn't want to spend that much money on this sweater. I just wanted to try it out with just the one yarn first. So this is what I chose, and I do like it. I do think that it definitely has a different sort of feel and look to it with the mohair, which I did really like. So if I ever knit this one again, I would probably do that and hold it with a mohair. But anyway, I did, like I said, very well written pattern. I did get very bored with this one because there is so much stockinette stitch going on here. There's you're doing the raglan increases here, and then when you separate for the sleeves, it's just so much stockinette. And since it's an oversized sweater, there's a lot of it. I did get a little bit bored. But then when you cast on for the button band, that's been sort of more interesting. So I've been enjoying doing the button band and doing the buttonholes. I did try to do something and cheat where she wants you to cast off the ribbing at the bottom using an Italian bind off. And I thought, why does it matter? I'm just going to do a 1 by 1 rib. And then when I went to cast on for the button band, I realized why you have to do that, because you're casting on the same way for the button band. So if your bottom of your cardigan cast off doesn't match here, it won't be even and it looks kind of funky. So what I did was I ripped it back. I ripped back some of the ribbing and I redid it with the Italian bind off, and I'm so happy that I did, because it totally makes such a difference. With casting off the other way was very wonky. It didn't look great. And then also, I've never ripped back my knitting like that before. I've picked back my knitting and undid the stitches one by one, but I've never actually just like ripped out a whole bunch. And I decided just to go for it. And I've always been afraid that I wouldn't be able to like put my stitches back on my needle again after and something would happen, but it was super easy. Like no problem at all. So I don't know why I've been so afraid. I can understand if you're doing more intricate pattern or like cables or lace. I don't think I'd be able to do that, but with just ribbing or just stockinette stitch, whatever, you can just rip it back and put it back on your needles and then you're good to go. So I'm really happy that I did that because I feel a lot more confident now. If I do make a mistake, I can fix it now a lot better. So that was a good learning experience. Yeah, and so now I'm just finishing up on the button band. This does take quite a long time because you're knitting, it's basically 2 layers of fabric there. And you got to go all these stitches, which are a lot. But yeah, I am enjoying this and I'm excited to be done. I think I'll be done probably by the end of the week and block it. And then I got to choose some buttons for it. So that's exciting. I chose this color blue because I'm trying to figure out, I'm playing around with colors right now and trying to figure out what my seasonal color palette is. And I know that I'm a summer, but I'm just not completely sure what type of summer I am. I know I'm not a light summer, but I'm either a true summer or a soft summer, and I'm not totally sure. So I wanted to play around with some of these colors that are from the true summer palette. So that's more of a saturated color that is cool. So it's blue toned, like blue undertone pink, as well as this blue is one of the true summer colors. So I don't know. That's why I picked up this one in the Dusty Aqua, because this one is definitely a soft summer, which are less saturated, cooler toned, with sort of a dusty look, like almost like you mixed in some gray in with the color. So I'm not sure. I don't know. I keep flipping back and forth, and I'm not really sure if it's because I want to be more of a true summer because it's easier to find those colors than the more dusty, muted, cool colors are a little bit harder. I mean, if you're shopping knitting for Olive, there are tons of dusty color tones in their color palette, so that is helpful but for a lot of other yarns, I don't know, they tend to be more saturated, and yeah, so it's hard to find more of those soft summer colors. But I do really like dusty colors. So I don't know, maybe you can help me out and say what you think suits me better if you're interested at all in that sort of thing. I do think if you want to knit with a color that isn't on your color palette or one of your color palette, just do it and enjoy your knitting. It doesn't really matter. I just want to have more pieces that I'm going to reach for and wear more often. So hopefully I can figure that out. So yeah, I do recommend this pattern. Definitely easy to understand and definitely will be a wearable knit, I think. So yeah, I'm excited about that one. I did have to, what did I have to do? It recommends using a US 7, and I had to go up to a US 8, which worked out perfectly for me. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that one. My next one is called the Gujo collar, and I really don't know how to say the designer's name or the company name. Aegyo or Aegyo, I'm not really sure. Aegyoknit. She's a Danish designer, and this one I saw on Danish Musings podcast, and I really liked how hers turned out. So that's where I got the inspiration for making one of my own. This one is knit. It's a very interesting knit. It's knit in half fisherman's rib, which I've never done before. So this was my first time experiencing that. And I was like, oh, this will be like just a quick thing to knit, a quick little like collar. And it wasn't. It's not, because half fisherman's rib takes quite a long time to do, because you're basically knitting one and then you're knitting one from the row below. No, well, in this one, it's an interesting knit because she has you knitting it inside out. I did find the pattern a little bit confusing. She does say that in the pattern. You should read through the entire pattern before you start, because it does say that. But at the beginning, I didn't do that. I didn't read through it all. And I kind of was doubting myself, am I doing this right? Because it looks much different on the outside, or the wrong side, I guess, the wrong side. But then I watched the podcast from Danish Musings, and she showed her finished thing, and then she talked about that, how it is knit inside out. So I was like, okay, I'm on the right track. And I absolutely love the squishiness of a half fisherman's rib. I think I just love this fabric so much. Yeah. I'm using Lion Brand Pound of Love, which is 100% acrylic yarn. And I chose this one because I have sensitivities to some wools, especially on my neck. And so I thought for like a scarf type thing, I really wanted to make sure it wasn't going to be scratchy or I wasn't going to wear it. And I also thought, like, I'm going to be slipping this over my head, and if any makeup gets on it, any lipstick, I wanted it to be easily washable, just to throw it in the washing machine. So that's why I chose it. And I really actually love it. It's very soft. It's very squishy. Yeah. So I'm really enjoying that. This is the color. It's Elephant Gray, which is 151. And I think this will go really nice as well with my gray wool coat. So I'll show you what I've got finished so far. So that's the back. And it's interesting shaping because it comes out, but then it comes in as well. You can see that there. And now I'm going on to work on the front. So it'll have like, it's a collar, very high collar, and I can actually put it over my head to have sort of like a hood. And then it has like a front piece and a back piece to keep your like back and front warm. And she shows you like you can wear it on the outside of your coat as well, or on the inside. I'll wear it on the inside because my coat's sort of like a wrap coat, but it's like a V-neck, so I need something to keep like my chest warm there. So I think that'll be perfect. It's turning out really well. It did confuse me a little bit, and I think that might be because she's Danish and the translation might be a little bit confusing, but not terribly. Like I was able to figure it out. She uses some terms like she says outside and inside instead of right side and wrong side, but she does state that in the pattern, so you see that. But yeah, other than that, really, really enjoyed that. I find, like, if you haven't seen this yarn by Lion Brand, the Pound of Love, it's like a giant, huge ball. So I was like, oh, well, this will be a great portable thing to bring with me to like hockey games or whatever. But then you have this giant like ball that's bigger than my head, which I think is pretty ridiculous looking. So I haven't actually taken this project out with me anywhere. But, if you don't care about things like that, it's a great portable project to work on. So yeah, definitely I do recommend that pattern. It's not a tight collar. So, it's not going to be something that you're going to wear out in like a really windy snowstorm type of day. It's more just like visually pretty, and you can kind of, like, it'll keep you, like, the wind off your neck. And I thought it was really pretty. So, that is it for that one. And then I have one last thing on my needles right now. Sorry for the paper. Which is called the Kinsella. And this one is by Anna Moore for Brooklyn Tweed. And this is a cable knit sweater. It's knit from the bottom up. and knit flat, and then you seam it all together, and then you pick up stitches for the collar. I will put a picture up of it here. And yeah, I really loved the cables in this sweater. I know there's a lot of cable knit sweaters out there that, you know, there's a lot to choose from. And I don't know why I chose this one. I just really liked the cable pattern on this one. And I also really like that it's knit flat and seamed together. And I know like a lot of people hate knitting things flat, hate having to seam garments together, and I totally get that, and I do like knitting things in the round top down, but it does give a different sort of look to your finished sweater when you knit in the round. It gives you a round sort of look, whereas something that's seamed gives you more of a streamlined fit with seams and edges and everything, and it, you know, it just squares off things so nicely. And I really enjoy that kind of look. So I'm only finished the back so far. So I will probably come back and talk to you when the whole thing is finished and I've done the seaming, because I know like most people don't really enjoy even weaving in their ends. And then on top of it, you've got to seam the entire thing together. Yeah, it's a lot of work. And I don't know, maybe at that time I'll have a different opinion of it, but right now I just really like visually how, I don't know if anybody else feels the same way. I do like the top down in the round as well. It just has a different sort of look that's more, even if you make it fitted, it still has a roundish sort of look. So anyway, I'll show you what I've got done so far. So this is the back, and I made it it's going to be long. And this one I made using Cascades 220 Superwash again in the color Frosted Almond. And it took me a long time to find this color, what I really wanted, because I didn't want something too like yellowish. I wanted it to be, yeah, very nice, like beigey sort of color. And I think I was really happy when I got this one in the mail. I really, really like this color. So I'm very happy about that. So yeah, I've only got the back done. I'm starting now on the front and really enjoying this sort of thing. You've got to really concentrate on the cables because there's a lot of different sections. And then each section of the cable repeat only has differing rows, if that makes sense. So you can't just count like row 1, row 2, row 3. You have to divide up each section of the cabling and keep track of how many rows you've done of each one of those. So I'm using a counter app on my phone, and I've got it divided into all the different sections and, you know, how many repeats and all of that. So I've got it like keeping track of it that way. But you really have to make sure that you're doing that, as well as some of the parts were on different pages. So what I did was I always print out my patterns, and I just cut out the chart from the one and glued it onto the other chart so that they're all on the same page, and kept a lot of notes of like on the right side you do this, and on the wrong side you do that, just to be like super organized with it. And I think it's working out well. I'm really happy with how this pattern's going along so far. So that is my Kinsella by Anna Moore for Brooklyn Tweed. And yeah, you can make that one. There's different lengths and everything. You make it's sort of a boxy fit because it's a unisex sweater. So it's boxy. You can make it a crop version or a regular length version. I don't know what they call it, classic length version, as well as bracelet length sleeves or like a classic length sleeve, like a little bit longer, which I think I'm leaning towards doing a bracelet length sleeve because I really don't like I do a lot of things with my hands. I'm always like washing dishes, it seems like, or doing something where I just don't want my sleeves in the way. So to have a bracelet length sleeve is really more practical for me. So that is it. Oh, I also suggested needle is a size 8, and I had to go down this time to a size 7 to get the right gauge. which I did for stitch gauge. I got the right gauge, but my row gauge was off. Like my row gauge always seems to be much longer than it's supposed to be. So I kind of looked into other people's projects on Ravelry, and I found some where they had the same issue, and they talked about how to like because you're just knitting, you're knitting bottom up, so that all is fine. You just knit to a certain length, but then once you start to do your raglan decreases up here, you need to have the right rate of decreasing here. If your row gauge is much longer and you're decreasing at the same rate, you're going to end up with a really long piece up here. So I had to go and change the rate of the decreases, and there are some very helpful like websites that'll show you how to do that. I also found a project on Ravelry where she said what she did, and so I'm just using that same decrease rate, and it worked out well. So I'm happy with that. This is my first time adjusting something like that, so it's a good experience. I'm having fun with that, and it worked out, so I'm glad. And yeah, I guess that is all for my works in progress. So now I wanted to talk about some of my knitting intentions for 2024. So recently I have been watching a lot of knitting YouTubers, and I spend a lot of time looking at Ravelry and scrolling through patterns and looking at different yarns. And so now my knitting queue is like out of control. Well, it's more my favorites is out of control. I move them to the knitting queue when I'm actually for sure I'm going to knit it, but it's out of control. And what happens is sometimes I will be so sure I'm going to knit something, and I purchase the pattern, and then I go and I purchase the yarn. And then by the time I'm ready to cast it on, because I still have 3 items right now on the needles. By the time I'm done those, I'm ready to cast on something new. I'm kind of bored by that pattern, and I'm a little bored by the yarn, and that's not good. That's not where I want to be, because now I'm starting to develop this yarn stash, and I never had that before. So I don't want that. I don't want to have a lot of yarns at home. I want to purchase yarns when I'm ready to knit. So that's one of my goals now, is to make sure that I'm ready to knit before I buy a pattern and before I buy the yarn. And I also want to try to have less whips at a time. I'm very much a person who enjoys the finished item. Like I want to be able to wear my sweaters. That's what I'm most excited about. Yes, shopping for patterns, shopping for yarn is super exciting for me, and I get like a real rush when I do that. But really it's like when I have the finished item is also when I'm super excited as well. So I think I'm going to try to work on, one garment knit at a time, and maybe one accessory like socks or hats or whatever, but just to have 2, like one main and one little project going on at one time. When I'm finished that, or when I'm like coming right to the end of that, then I will purchase another pattern and I will purchase my yarn at that time and cast that on when I casted this one off. So that's one of my goals. And we'll see how that goes. I also feel with this is that I'll be able to, if I'm working on one thing at a time, I'll be able to purchase a yarn that I really want instead of a yarn that I can, like, there's nothing wrong with inexpensive yarns, and I definitely use those. And I think that's totally fine. And you can make something very beautiful with something inexpensive. You don't have to spend a ton of money. But sometimes there's a pattern and I see an example of it that I really, really love. It might, it's the yarn that I really love. And I'd like to be able to try out those yarns from time to time. And if I'm not knitting 3 sweaters at one time, maybe I can put the money more into one of those yarns instead. So that's that's one of my goals. And yeah, I just want to continue to make staple pieces for my wardrobe, things that I'm going to reach for and going to wear, and things that are going to go with the rest of the things that I have in my wardrobe as well. And then I'd also like to be able to commit some more of the techniques, the knitting techniques, to memory instead of having to go back and watch the same videos again every single time or read the same blog posts about it every single time. So I want to sort of practice more of those techniques so I have them like memorized. But we'll see how that goes. And then I'd also like to listen to more audiobooks when I'm knitting. A lot of the time I watch TV. I don't watch a lot of like TV shows, really. I watch a lot of reruns of TV shows so that I don't really have to concentrate a lot. But when I'm knitting, a lot of the time I'm watching YouTube videos. I'd like to listen a little bit more to some audiobooks while I'm knitting. Sometimes my mind wanders and I get confused and I have to go back and re-listen to a chapter, but that's okay. So those are some of my goals. Yeah, another thing is another goal that's not knitting related is I'm starting to get back into exercising again and running. I used to run a long time ago and I really liked it. Like once I got into the flow of it, I really enjoyed running. So I've been working on building up my endurance, whatever, with running. It really is helpful for me. I have a lot of anxiety. I've had anxiety since I was, in my early teens, and exercising has totally helped a lot with coping with anxiety. So as well as knitting, of course, and all my crafting hobbies are definitely something that I reach for when I'm feeling anxious, and that really helps to calm me down. So yeah, I wanted to add running to that as well this year. So I'm probably in my third or fourth week now of getting back into running. So I sort of build up gradually. I walk, run for about a half an hour. So I'm just building up the time that I'm able to run in a row, like minutes in a row before needing to walk. So that's going well and I'm enjoying that. It's really, like I said, really helpful for my anxiety. Another thing that I did last year around the beginning of the year, was I switched to decaf coffee. And that happened kind of just by accident because I ended up having strep throat last year. And I was really not feeling well with that. And I was in bed for a lot of the time. And I didn't drink coffee. Like normally I wake up and I have a coffee every morning. I usually don't have a ton of coffee. I have 2 large coffees probably a day. But that was a thing. Like every morning I have to wake up and have my coffee. And when I was sick with strep throat, I didn't even bother with the coffee. And I had such a terrible headache the whole time. And then when I started to feel better, I thought for some reason I just thought, why not, now you haven't had caffeine for a while, why not just stop and switch to decaf? And I did. And because I had tried years ago to switch to decaf and I ended up getting really bad headaches from it. But this time I was like, okay, you've already been through headaches, whether it was from having the strep throat or it was from not drinking the coffee or both, but you've already gone through it. So why not just switch to decaf? So I did. And honestly, it has helped me so much with my anxiety. I don't really get a lot of panic attacks, but I have generalized anxiety, and switching to the decaf really, really helped me with that. So I don't know if anyone's looking for any tips on how to help manage anxiety. I definitely recommend trying to get rid of coffee or switching over to decaf, because it was a real game changer for me. So yeah, I'm happy about that. Another thing that I'm working on right now, which is not knitting related, is a miniature dollhouse. So I'll put a picture up of the ones that I've made. I've made actually 3 of these. So this is my 4th one that I'm working on right now. And the past 3 I have sold to other people. And then I decided I wanted to make one more, and I was going to make this one for myself. So yeah, I'm making it in exactly the same style as the ones that I made before. And right now I'm just working on doing the shingles. So the whole house has been constructed and put together, and then that's all built and put together, and then you have to shingle the roof. There's like a porch roof and then the main roof, and it all has to be like shingled, and you have to cut the pieces of wood to make it fit around. There's a gable on the top, and they have to all fit around that, and you have to stain all the shingles as well. So I've kind of been like dragging my feet a bit on this part because I don't like to stain the shingles indoors because the fumes give me a headache. They're not good. So I do it out in like one of our screened in rooms, and it's just been way too cold right now to do that. So I'm kind of running out of some of the ones that I used before. But yeah, I'm working on that, and I think this week we're going to have a bit of warmer temperatures, so I'll be able to get some of those stained. So yeah, the rest of it right now is just finishing all the shingles on the roof, and then touching up some paint. I've got to glue on some shutters. I have to stain and assemble the door for the front. I think that's about it. There might be some other I have to put some trim on it and stuff. So the most time consuming part is the shingling, and that's the part that I look forward to the least of building the dollhouse, but when it's done, it looks so nice. So I'm really into miniatures, dollhouse miniatures, and I love looking at different accounts on Instagram. Some people have done like beautiful interiors. That sort of overwhelms me a little bit because I don't even know where to start on the interior. The building of the dollhouse I really like to do, but the interior I don't know. It's a lot to do at one time, but I love looking at all the little miniature furniture and little decorations and everything. It just speaks to me. I love it. Yeah, so that's what I'm working on right now. I'm also going to show you a couple of the miniatures that I've made myself, miniature pieces of furniture. So let me go and get those, and if you're interested, please stick around. I'll show you what I've worked on. Okay, so here's a couple of the little miniatures that I made. These are 1/12 scale, little like Victorian style footstools. And I designed the patterns and then cross-stitched them onto 28 count fabric, and then I covered, like, there's a cushion underneath, and then built this little box footstool type thing for them. Yeah, so those were fun to do, and now I just need to finish off the outside of my dollhouse and then hopefully start decorating the inside once I've decided on what kind of style I want for it. So that's a lot of fun. And yeah, I think that's all that I wanted to talk to you about today. So thank you so much for joining me. And I hope to come back, maybe try to come back a little more often so I don't have like so much to talk about at one time. Possibly try for every 2 weeks, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, thank you so much for coming, and I will see you again later. Bye.